I never imagined I'd attend my own wedding as a guest, let alone an uninvited one. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. But instead of walking down the aisle, I stood hidden behind a marble column, dressed in black, watching the man I loved slip a ring onto someone else's finger. And that someone was my best friend. The night before my name is Savannah Reed. I was 29 when it happened, when everything I believed about love, friendship, and loyalty unraveled like a thread pulled too far. I had been engaged to Caleb Morgan for nearly 2 years. We'd been together since college. One of those campus romances that started with casual study sessions and bloomed into promises whispered beneath blankets at 2 a.m. He was my first everything. My first kiss. My first heartbreak. My first home. My first future. Or so I thought. The night before the wedding was quiet. Almost too quiet. I stayed at a boutique hotel as tradition dictated, while Caleb spent the evening at his best friend's house. My wedding dress was hung neatly in the closet. Ivory lace with hand-stitched crystals. A custom creation by a designer we had met together in New York. Caleb had insisted I get the one, because he wanted me to feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. My phone buzzed with messages from family and friends. So excited for tomorrow. You're going to be a stunning bride. This is your fairy tale beginning. I should have felt joy, but I didn't. There was something cold in my chest. Something still. It started with a phone call. An unknown number. One ring. Then silence. Then another. This time a voicemail. I played it, half expecting it to be a guest confirming the address. Instead, I heard shaky breathing. And a whispered voice I knew all too well. Ray. My best friend since I was 12. My maid of honor. Save. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to tell you. I never meant for it to happen. I swear. I tried to stop it, but the rest was muffled. I froze. My heart slammed against my ribs as her voice trailed into a sob. A tremble started in my fingers and spread up my arms. I replayed the voicemail 3 more times, hoping I misheard. That it was about something else. Anything else. But deep down I already knew. By morning I was gone. I didn't call anyone. I didn't ask questions. I didn't wait for explanations that would only break me more. I just disappeared. I packed a small bag, left my phone on the nightstand, walked out of the hotel, and vanished into a city where no one would look for me. My parents thought I had cold feet. Rachel probably assumed I found out. Caleb, well, I hoped he burned with guilt, but men like him never do. I used the cash I had tucked away for our honeymoon and booked a last-minute train out of town. Somewhere anonymous. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere my screams couldn't echo. I cried for hours in that train seat. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Steadily. Until my body ached from holding it all in. I wasn't just mourning Caleb. I was mourning me, the woman I used to be. 3 days later I found out the truth. He went through with the wedding. Not with me. With Rachel. They moved the venue. Kept the original guest list. Said there had been a last-minute switch. Claimed I had run away, and Rachel had stood in to save the day. The photos hit social media within hours. Rachel in my dress. Caleb wearing my grandmother's cufflinks. Them standing in front of the altar I designed, surrounded by flowers I selected, vows echoing in the space where I was supposed to say, I do. They smiled like they hadn't stolen everything from me. Like they were the victims. Like I was the villain for disappearing. People reached out. Some friends messaged, confused and concerned. Others took their silence as loyalty to the new couple. My own parents, blindsided and humiliated, didn't know what to believe. They begged me to call. To explain. To come home. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because once your heart is shattered, there's nothing left to explain. And I refused to beg for answers from people who already chose betrayal over truth. I moved into a shared apartment in a quiet coastal town 4 hours away. Changed my name. Cut my hair. Deleted all my social accounts. I started working under the table, bartending, helping at a flower shop, even cleaning vacation rentals. Anything to keep my mind busy. Anything to avoid remembering how Caleb used to kiss my forehead before bed. How Rachel held my hand when I cried over school stress. How they both used to joke that if I ever disappeared, they'd come find me no matter where I ran. Funny how quickly people let you go when keeping you would cost their comfort. Took me 6 months to stop checking the wedding hashtag. Another 3 to stop flinching when someone said the name Caleb in public. But I never stopped remembering. Never stopped wondering how 2 people I loved could carve me out of my own life and smile like it didn't kill them. That's when the shift began. I didn't want justice. I wanted a reckoning. One evening while clearing out boxes in a local thrift store, I came across a tattered notebook. The cover read, "Things I'll do once I'm free." It wasn't mine, but it might as well have been. The list inside was simple. 1. Learn something new. 2. Reclaim what they said I couldn't. 3. Make them regret ever letting me go. That last line sparked something in me. What if I stopped surviving? What if I built something instead, something they could never erase, outshine, or recover from? That's when I decided, if they wanted my life so badly, I'd show them what it meant to lose theirs. Not through violence. Not through scandal. Through something far more devastating. Success. I used what little money I had left to enroll in online courses, business management, branding, corporate law. At night I worked. In the day I studied. I watched videos on silent takeovers. Read memoirs of women who rebuilt from ruin. Learned how to use silence as leverage. Pain as power. Over time, I rebuilt myself not into the girl Caleb betrayed, but into the woman he could never afford to cross again. And when the time came, I'd walk back into their world. Not to beg for answers, but to take back everything they stole, piece by piece, quietly, until there was nothing left of the life they built from my bones. When you disappear long enough, people start rewriting your story for you. Some said I had a breakdown. Others claimed I'd run away with a mystery lover. One rumor said I'd been spotted in Italy with a billionaire. Not a single one of them knew the truth. I wasn't lost. I was evolving. The birth of Ava Sinclair. By the time a year had passed, Savannah Reed was no more. She'd been the girl who begged for love, made excuses for betrayal, and believed in forever. But now, I was Ava Sinclair. A new name. A new look. A new purpose. I moved to Chicago and enrolled in an accelerated master's program in strategic business leadership. Sponsored through a merit-based scholarship I clawed my way into with sheer grit. At night, I worked part-time at a luxury spa. By day, I built an online portfolio offering brand consultation and corporate recovery strategies. In 6 months, I landed my first client, a boutique fashion company struggling with a scandal. I helped them reshape their image, streamline operations, and triple revenue within 90 days. By the end of the year, I was consulting for CEOs who didn't even know I was once the woman they'd overlooked at a wedding she never got to walk into. Revenge wasn't just brewing. It was rising. One rainy afternoon while doing brand research for a new client, I saw it, a headline that made my blood freeze. Rachel Morgan partners with Caleb Morgan to launch Morgan & Hart, a lifestyle brand for power couples. The photo beneath it made me sick. Rachel posed in a silk ivory dress, my dress, smiling at Caleb, now her husband, while standing in front of the very same cottage-style house I had picked out during one of our weekend drives to the countryside. It was all mine. Still mine. They hadn't even bothered to change anything. They just took what I built, put their names on it, and called it theirs. I read the article twice. The brand's tagline? Built on trust, rooted in love. The irony nearly choked me. But beneath the fury, something sparked. An opportunity. Morgan & Hart was new. Fresh. Vulnerable. Built on reputation. One scandal, one disruption, one smart move. And it could all fall apart. My lips curled into a smile. They had taken my life. Now I was going to take theirs. It started small. A new client reached out to me, an event production company struggling with logistics and press coverage for a major launch. The client? One of the vendors for Morgan & Hart's upcoming product reveal gala. I accepted immediately. I worked quietly, efficiently, gaining access to internal email threads, vendor schedules, and press coordination documents. Everything flowed through me: floor plans, table arrangements, even the list of VIP guests. And then I saw it. Table 4. Caleb's family. Rachel's college besties. Their inner circle. Names I hadn't seen in years. All in one room. All unaware they were about to be haunted. I made sure to be visible at the event. Not center stage, not dramatic. Just visible. Dressed in a sleek black jumpsuit, hair pulled back, designer glasses on, clipboard in hand. Professional. Unrecognizable. I walked past Caleb twice during setup. He glanced at me, barely registering my presence. Why would he? He had buried Savannah Reed long ago. And Ava Sinclair? She was just another name in a growing list of professionals who bowed when he walked by. But Rachel. Rachel paused. We locked eyes for half a second, and I saw it, the flicker of confusion, the shift in her expression, the beginning of unease. She didn't recognize me. Not entirely. But something inside her did. The room was glowing by 7 p.m. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, floral installations. It was everything I had once dreamed of for my wedding reception. I stood near the main AV booth, monitoring lighting cues and run-of-show details, when their welcome video began to play. Photos of Caleb and Rachel flashed across the screen: engagement shoots, brand shoots, cozy candids. Laughter filled the room. But I knew their story was paper-thin. A house built on my blueprints. A brand borrowed from my ambition. A marriage carved from my silence. And paper burns fast. I didn't destroy them that night. Well, that would have been easy. Instead, I made myself useful. Approachable. I complimented the PR rep, gave the social media assistant feedback on #traction. Offered to connect them with a reputation specialist. I knew. By the end of the night, I was added to a private group chat with 3 core members of Morgan and Hart's launch team. It was laughably easy. They were already looking to outsource brand management as the business grew. And Ava Sinclair? She came highly recommended, thanks to the anonymous referral I sent from a fake client profile a week earlier. I was inside. Officially. And the best part? Rachel looked at me one more time before I left. She squinted. Tilted her head. Like someone trying to remember a dream they weren't sure they had. I gave her a polite nod and disappeared into the crowd. 3 days later, I received an email. Subject: Loved your work, can we talk? From rachel.morgan@morganhart.co. My breath caught. She remembered something. Or at least she felt something. I opened it. Hi Ava, I just wanted to thank you for your calm coordination at the gala. Everything was seamless. I could have sworn I've met you before. Do you do any work in North Carolina? I grew up there. Either way, I'd love to connect again. Maybe coffee? Warmly, Rachel. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I wrote back. Hi Rachel, thank you for your kind words. I've worked all over but never in North Carolina. Perhaps we crossed paths in a previous life. Coffee sounds wonderful. I'd be happy to meet. Just say when. Best, Ava. She took my life and erased my name. Now she would offer me coffee. And unknowingly invite her ghost to sit across the table she thought she'd earned. Coffee with the woman who betrayed me should have been the last thing I wanted. But it was the first step I needed. She thought it was a friendly catch-up. A curious spark of déjà vu she couldn't place. For me, it was reconnaissance. I wasn't going to scream or throw a drink in her face. I didn't need to. That kind of revenge fades fast. What I was building. It would leave scars she'd never heal from. We agreed to meet at a little cafe in downtown Chicago, modern, minimal, full of quiet conversations and overpriced oat milk lattes. I arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in a soft cream blouse and camel-toned blazer, heels clicking on the floor like punctuation marks to my return. No makeup beyond a swipe of mascara and nude lipstick. No jewelry, no flashy bag. I looked like success without trying. Like a woman who didn't have to prove anything. That's what I wanted her to see, someone she could admire, envy, and never quite figure out. Rachel walked in like she was late, even though she wasn't. Her eyes darted across the cafe, pausing the second they landed on me. I stood to greet her. Her arms opened, then hesitated as if she wasn't sure if we were the hug kind. I kept it professional, a polite handshake. "Exie need someone like you full-time," she said, stirring her coffee. "Our strategies stretch thin right now." "Oh." I tilted my head. "What's causing the stretch?" "Well, Caleb's been distracted lately. Not in a bad way," she added quickly. "Just focused on different things. Expansion. Investors. It's a lot. But we're good." "Of course you are," I thought. "You're always good, until you're not." She leaned forward slightly. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Were you ever married?" A curveball. My chest tightened, but I didn't flinch. "No," I said calmly. "I was engaged once." She blinked. "Oh. What happened?" I smiled gently. "He proposed. I planned everything. Then he changed his mind the week of the wedding." Her face paled slightly. I continued. "He married someone else instead. A woman I used to trust." Rachel swallowed. "That's awful. I can't even imagine." "I can," I said softly. "But I'm grateful for it. Losing them gave me room to become something more." She looked like she didn't know whether to pity me or apologize. But she said nothing. Good. Guilt would rot her from the inside much better than rage. 2 days later she emailed me again. Subject: Let's talk possibilities, Ava. We'd love to bring you on as a brand consultant on contract initially. There's a lot we're developing and having someone like you guiding the image and growth would be huge. Caleb is on board and we both think your instincts are invaluable. Can we set up a call? I stared at the message, heart pounding with cold satisfaction. She had no idea she had just opened the front door and invited the devil to dinner. The office of Morgan and Hart was everything I expected and nothing I hadn't seen before. High-rise, clean lines, modern lighting, minimalist aesthetic. But all I saw was the foundation I had helped Caleb dream about when we were just kids fresh out of college, lying in bed, imagining our empire. Now, my fingerprints were all over a brand pretending I never existed. And that was going to be their undoing. I walked in with my head high, dressed for success, calm as moonlight. Caleb met me in the lobby. It had been nearly 2 years since I last saw him in person. His face didn't change much. Maybe a little more tired. A little more weight in his shoulders. His jaw twitched when he saw me, subtle, but I caught it. "Miss Sinclair," he said, extending his hand. "Thanks for coming." I took it briefly. "Mr. Morgan." "A pleasure." No flicker of recognition. No sign he saw Savannah beneath the surface of Ava. The man who once undressed me with reverence now couldn't recognize my eyes. Good. The next few weeks moved quickly. I became the lead consultant for the company's next launch campaign, Forever Essentials, an ironically named product line featuring items couples could personalize together. Rachel adored me. She sang my praises in meetings. Caleb listened intently, agreeing with every idea I laid out. I became part of their circle, quiet, efficient, trusted. All the while I collected intel. I reviewed their books. Saw the overspending. Noted the debt tucked behind glossy press releases. Identified the vendor complaints hidden in fine print. They were leaking from the inside. All they needed was a gentle push and I would be happy to provide it. But not yet. First I wanted to test their limits. One evening, during a brainstorming session, Rachel suggested they add a personal touch to their next event. Maybe handwritten letters from the founders. "That's intimate," I said, nodding. "People love vulnerability." Caleb smirked. "Rachel's the queen of vulnerability." She beamed. "What about you?" I asked him like I didn't already know. "Any romantic background?" He shrugged. "I've made mistakes. Almost married the wrong woman once. But thankfully fate fixed that for me." Rachel laughed. "Oh, don't start. We don't talk about that." I smiled coolly. "What happened to her?" I asked softly. Caleb leaned back. "She disappeared." "Literally," Rachel added. "Left her dress in a hotel room and vanished. Everyone said she had a breakdown." "Do you ever wonder why?" I asked, my voice soft. Caleb stared at me, something flickering in his eyes. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But then I look at my life now and realize I ended up right where I was supposed to be." I nodded slowly. "Must be nice," I said. "Must be," he replied. Neither of us blinked. It started with invitations. Brunches, late-night texts, random, "Got a minute?" phone calls. Rachel, who once replaced me at the altar, now leaned on me for everything. "Can I get your opinion on this campaign line? I feel like Caleb's not telling me something. Do you think I'm overthinking?" "Your skin is flawless. What do you use?" I gave her advice. Gave her compliments. Became the woman she never expected to admire. She trusted me deeply. Because when someone sees you as everything they wish they could be, they forget you might also be everything they should fear. Marriage reveals more in silence than in vows. Rachel and Caleb had everything I once thought I wanted. A beautiful home, a business with their names on the door, Sunday morning photo shoots for their lifestyle brand. But beneath the perfect Instagram filters was something rotten. She was insecure. He was bored. They weren't partners. They were co-founders playing house. I started feeding that. Casually. Subtly. "I think Caleb's been stressed lately," I'd say. "He seemed a little distracted after the call yesterday. Is everything okay?" Rachel would brush it off. Buff. At first. But it stayed with her. Later it was, "You don't think he's hiding anything from me, do you?" I tilt my head. "I'm sure he's just focused. You know how intense he can get when something's on his mind. Truth coated in poison." She smiled. But her fingers twitched on the stem of her wine glass. I saw the seed settle. It wouldn't take long to grow. One Thursday afternoon, Rachel invited me over to their home for a girls' work session. I accepted, of course. The house was exactly as I remembered it from when Caleb and I had signed the lease. The entryway with the dark wood floors. The staircase I wanted to decorate for Christmas. The open kitchen where I once imagined baking cinnamon rolls with our future kids. Now it smelled like lavender and betrayal. Come in. I made a charcuterie board, Rachel chirped, leading me to the living room. The walls had new art. Her touch. But I still recognized the soul of the place. It was mine, dressed in someone else's clothing. Caleb walked through as I settled in, buttoning his shirt. He froze slightly when he saw me. Didn't know you'd be here, he said. Rachel laughed. You never check the group calendar. Ava's basically part of the family now. His jaw ticked. I smiled. Just here to make your wife look brilliant. He left without another word. But he looked back once. That evening, after too many glasses of wine, Rachel let something slip. We weren't always this solid, she said, waving her glass lazily. There were rumors when we got together. People thought I took you from someone. You did, I said casually, watching her freeze. Her eyes widened. What? You did, I repeated. You took Caleb from someone. That woman just didn't stick around long enough to say anything about it. He stared at me, stunned. I smiled sweetly. Don't worry. She's probably better off. Then I stood and went to refill my glass. Behind me I heard her breathing shift. The crack had formed. And cracks are where the light, or rot, gets in. Morgan and Hart was shiny but unstable. A house built on borrowed values and curated illusions. I began auditing their vendors, subtly replacing reliable partners with ones I knew had minor weaknesses. Ones who would deliver just below standard. The decline would be gradual. Nothing dramatic. Just less than expected. A typo on an invitation. A delay in a shipment. A product that didn't photograph well. I blamed supply chains. External delays. Rachel always nodded. Trusted me. In meetings I started pushing for Caleb to lead public relations, knowing full well he hated the spotlight. He's so charismatic, I'd say. People respond to him. You don't want to seem like you're hiding him. Rachel would frown. But he's better behind the scenes. Exactly, I'd reply. Which is why we should bring him in front for once. Show vulnerability. Trust. Eventually she agreed. He hated it. Became irritable. Snapped at her in small ways. Nothing loud. Just enough for her to notice. I left my earrings at their house on purpose. One of the pairs Caleb had bought for me back when we were together. Custom. Unmistakable. The next day he returned them at the office. You left these, he said, holding the velvet pouch. I looked at them. Funny. I had a pair just like that once. He didn't move. I took the pouch, brushing his hand. Memory's a funny thing, isn't it? I said softly. He stared at me, unnerved. But still. He didn't know. Or maybe he did. And denial was easier. Rachel's texts became more erratic. Do you think Caleb flirts with the assistant? He changed his phone password. You don't think he regrets marrying me, right? I always responded carefully. I'm sure it's nothing. Relationships go through phases. You're probably just overthinking. But I never reassured her. Because doubt grows best in silence. And she had no idea the woman she was confiding in was the woman she once stabbed in the back. The next board meeting was mine to run. Caleb and Rachel sat beside each other, but I could feel the cold between them. He interrupted her twice. She didn't laugh at his jokes. I stood before them with slides full of numbers, campaign strategies, and performance charts. Then I pulled up the final one. A graph showing public engagement metrics over time with a noticeable dip. People are losing trust in the Morgan and Hart image, I said. The power couple branding is becoming strained. Rachel bristled. What are you implying? I looked at her, calm. Perception matters. Especially when your foundation was a fairy tale that people were always a little skeptical of. Caleb frowned. Are you saying we shouldn't lead the brand? I'm saying, I replied, that sometimes stepping back allows something better to grow. They were silent. And in their silence I saw it. The fear. The beginning of collapse. I'd always known the moment would come. The shift. The way the mind starts tugging at old threads, even when the eyes are convinced they're looking at someone new. I had changed everything: my hair color, the curve of my brow, the rhythm of my voice. I dressed differently. I moved differently. Ava Sinclair wasn't just a name. She was a wall. But even a wall can crack if you stare long enough. And Caleb had started staring. He sat across the table during our investor strategy meeting, eyes lingering too long on my mouth when I spoke. brow furrowed slightly when I adjusted my pen in the same way Savannah used to during client reviews. He was trying to place me. But memory is a cruel thing, it doesn't come when you call it. It slips in uninvited during quiet moments like a ghost. That's what I had become. A ghost in his boardroom. And soon a ghost in his mind. I gave him reasons to be around me. Late night calls about branding hiccups. Early morning meetings to finalize launch assets. Private one-on-ones to align on investor expectations. All carefully curated, all innocent on the surface. But the tension grew. Quiet. Dense. I never flirted. Never leaned in. Never crossed the line. That was the brilliance of it. The less I gave him, the more he wanted to understand. He asked small questions between meetings. Have we ever worked together before? Did you ever live in Charlotte? Your handwriting looks familiar. Ever do marketing in Atlanta? Each time I deflected with grace. No, I've only ever worked in Chicago. I've visited Atlanta but never worked there. I get that a lot. Lies coated in calm. But the more I denied, the more his suspicion grew. While Caleb obsessed over me, Rachel unraveled beside him. Her texts became more frequent. Do you think Caleb's pulling away? He doesn't even look at me in meetings anymore. He's been short lately. Snapping. Distant. I offered the perfect blend of concern and detachment. Maybe he's just overwhelmed. You two have a strong brand. You'll get through it. Sometimes space brings clarity. Never too close. Never too helpful. Just enough to let the silence between them widen. She confided in me like a sister, poured her insecurities out over rooftop drinks and glass after glass of Chardonnay. And I collected every word. Because when the time came I would use them like bullets. One evening I was in Caleb's office after hours reviewing press material. Rachel had gone home early with a migraine. The air between us was taut. Heavy. I stood behind his desk watching him scroll through design drafts. He looked frustrated. Exhausted. None of this feels right, he muttered. The brand. It doesn't feel like us anymore. I leaned slightly, pointing at the screen. That's because the messaging is shallow. You're selling aesthetics, not emotion. He looked up. Right into my eyes. That's when it happened. The shift. He stared too long. Too hard. And then he said it. Has anyone ever told you that you remind them of someone? I held his gaze. Once or twice. He blinked, then leaned back. You have this presence. Like I've seen you before. Been with you before. Pause. A choice. I could have denied it. But I smiled just faintly. Maybe in another life. He didn't speak. He just watched me. And I let him. Rachel noticed the change almost immediately. She showed up at my apartment unannounced 2 days later, mascara smeared, wearing a designer hoodie and fury in her eyes. I opened the door, calmly sipping tea. Ava, she hissed, are you sleeping with my husband? I blinked. Excuse me. She shoved past me into the living room, eyes blazing. Don't lie to me. He talks about you more than me. He compliments you in meetings. He listens to you. Do you think I'm blind? I shut the door behind her. I think you're insecure. She flinched like I slapped her. I'm not sleeping with Caleb, I continued. But maybe ask yourself why you think I am. He stared at me confused. I haven't done anything, Rachel. But you're spiraling because deep down you know something's wrong. And you're looking for someone to blame. Tears welled in her eyes. He was mine. No, I said gently. He was never yours. She stood there trembling. Then she ran. The next day Caleb called me into his office. He looked like he hadn't slept. Rachel told me she came to see you, he said. She was upset, I replied. He nodded slowly, then looked at me like he wanted to say something more. Finally he asked, do you believe in second chances? I paused. For who? For people who've made mistakes, he said. For people who hurt someone. Without realizing what they were really giving up. I didn't answer right away. Instead I walked to the window and stared out at the skyline. I believe some people don't deserve second chances, I said softly. Because the first one was everything. He stood behind me close. I think I made the worst mistake of my life, he murmured. I turned to face him. What mistake was that? His voice cracked slightly. Letting the right person walk away. I looked at him long and hard. And then I stepped back. You didn't let her walk, I said. You pushed her. Then I left. The rumors began a week later. Whispers in the office. Quiet speculation. Rachel had missed 2 press meetings. She stopped showing up to internal planning calls. A source close to one of our investors leaked that she had broken down during a private dinner, accusing Caleb of falling for another woman. She showed up at the office the next day, hair wild, face pale, wearing a silk blouse that was buttoned wrong. She barged into our midweek leadership meeting and slammed her palms on the table. "I want her gone," she snarled, pointing at me. "She's manipulating you all. She's turned my husband against me." The room fell silent. Caleb stood. "Rachel, don't Rachel to me," she shouted. "This is Savannah. That's who she is. I know it. Savannah Reed. She changed her face or voice or something, but I know. He's back. And she's destroying everything." I remained seated. "Come. Mrs. Morgan," I said, "are you feeling okay?" She gasped. "You're sick," Caleb said gently, guiding her out. "You need to rest. We'll talk later." She fought him. Screamed. Shouted my name. My real name. But it was too late. To them she had just cracked. And I was the composed, elegant professional with a glowing resume and no reason to lie. I had become the woman she tried to erase. And now she was erasing herself. It started slowly, like it always does. A missed appointment here. A forgotten call there. Publicists whispering about erratic behavior. I made sure they heard it. "She's been distracted lately. Rachel's been emotional in meetings. Did you notice? Maybe she needs a break." I didn't say it maliciously. Just enough to start the murmur. And then she did the rest. Storming into meetings late, slamming doors, snapping at assistants. She once threw a porcelain vase in a product shoot because a florist brought the wrong shade of ivory roses. The same shade she carried on her wedding day. To the world, she looked like a founder under stress. To the board, she looked unstable. Caleb, she looked unfamiliar. Morgan and Hart wasn't just a love story brand, it was an investment machine. Backers, angel investors, retail partnerships. Which meant Rachel's breakdowns weren't just embarrassing. They were expensive. During a quarterly review, one of the major investors pulled Caleb aside and asked him point blank, "Is your wife going to ruin the company?" I had already slipped him the data: soft sales from their last campaign, poor social engagement after Rachel's video outburst, media silence following her sabbatical. She wasn't just emotional. She was bad for business. Caleb looked at me the next day with something between guilt and desperation. "I don't know what to do," he said. "She's your wife," I replied, voice calm. "You do what's right for the company." The choice I once never had to make, he now had to face. 2 weeks after the incident in the office, Rachel emailed the board with a formal complaint. She accused me, Ava Sinclair, of being Savannah Reed in disguise. She included photos from the past, blurry screenshots of old social media posts, handwritten comparisons, even a scanned image of the earrings Caleb had returned to me. She claimed I had changed my identity to destroy her. That I had orchestrated a plan to steal her life. He was right. But her problem? She had no proof. And her behavior had already eroded her credibility. Caleb called me into his office the next day, folder in hand. He placed it on the desk and sat across from me. "I need to ask you something," he said, voice heavy. "Is this true?" I looked at the photos. The handwriting. My old face beside the one he now knew. And then I met his eyes. "What do you think?" He was silent for a long time. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I want it not to be. Because if it is?" I asked softly. He looked down. "I'll lose everything." The board acted fast. Within a week, Rachel was asked to step down temporarily while she addressed personal health matters. The PR team released a statement. Co-founder Rachel Morgan will be taking a wellness leave to focus on personal well-being. Caleb Morgan and the executive team will continue leading Morgan and Hart with the same vision and integrity our customers trust. It was clean. Surgical. I wrote it myself. Rachel tried to fight it, pleaded with Caleb to back her. To believe her. But he stood silently beside me at the press conference. Stoic. Calm. The same way I had once stood watching him choose her. Only this time, she was the one watching from the outside. She showed up at my apartment that night. Hair wet from the rain. Coat clutched tight around her. Eyes wild with betrayal. I opened the door slowly. She looked like a ghost. "You win," she whispered. I said nothing. "Take it all," she breathed. "Take him. Take the company. Take the fking house. You've already taken my mind. I stepped aside, letting her in. She stood in my living room, dripping, broken. You were supposed to stay gone, she whispered. You weren't supposed to come back better. I looked at her. This woman who'd once been my maid of honor. Who wore my ring. My dream. My future. I didn't come back better, I said. I built better. After you tried to burn me. Tears slid down her face. You loved him, she choked. I nodded. Then why are you doing this? I stepped closer. Because you didn't just take him. You laughed when you took him. You wore my dress in my house and called it fate. You looked me in the eye every day for months, knowing you were lying. She crumbled to her knees, sobbing. I didn't move. Because no one moved for me when I shattered. Caleb and I worked late the night after Rachel left. Alone in his office, tired eyes, whiskey glass in hand. I used to think I was the victim, he said. Oh. She was relentless. After you left. Told me you didn't love me. That you had cold feet. She kept me from contacting your family. Said you didn't want anything from me. I said nothing. He looked at me. But now I know. I let her. You did, I said. I didn't fight for you. No. He ran a hand through his hair. I think about you sometimes, he whispered. Not Ava. Savannah. I finally looked at him. And what do you think? He met my gaze. That I broke the only thing that ever made me whole. For the first time. I almost softened. Almost. The next day, Caleb called a private meeting with me and 2 senior board members. Rachel's not coming back, he said. They nodded. She can retain silent equity, but she's out of operations. I need someone I can trust at my side. He looked at me. I want to offer you Cosio. It should have felt like triumph. And it did. For a second. Until he added, also. Maybe dinner sometime. I smiled. Well, calculated. I'll think about it. Because what he didn't realize. I never wanted the man. I wanted the moment when he realized he lost me. Forever. We met for dinner at a private rooftop restaurant, one reserved for the elite, where deals were sealed with vintage wine and soft jazz. He pulled my chair out like a gentleman, like he hadn't once let another woman wear my ring. He looked at me with the kind of admiration that once would have melted me. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I wanted to thank you, he said after the first glass of wine, for everything you've done for the brand for me. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. He studied me for a long moment. You're remarkable, Ava. I've never met anyone who challenges me the way you do. Is that a compliment or a warning? I asked with a small smile. Both, he said. But mostly a confession. He reached into his jacket pocket and slid a small box across the table. I froze. He was not. I know it's sudden, he said, but I've spent months thinking about what I lost. I don't want to waste more time. You and we could build something real. Something stronger. My hands didn't move. Open it, he whispered. I did. It wasn't the old ring. It was a new one, sleek, modern, larger. But not nearly as meaningful. He leaned forward. Will you marry me? I met his eyes. Caleb, I said softly, you're asking the wrong woman. He blinked. What? I closed the box. You're not in love with me. You're in love with the idea of redemption. His throat bobbed. That's not true. It is, I said. You look at me and see the life you threw away. And you think if you can reclaim me, you can erase everything that came after. His face paled. But I'm not your salvation, Caleb, I said. I'm your consequence. I slid the box back to him. And stood. Dinner was over. The next week I made my position clear. I took over day-to-day operations. Appointed a new CFO. Hired a creative director I'd mentored during my reinvention. I called a private board meeting and proposed a rebrand. New name. New leadership. New story. Heart Collective. Morgan was removed. Stiffly. Politely. Professionally. The board didn't argue. Caleb didn't attend. He knew what it meant. When the press release went out, the headlines exploded. Morgan and Hart rebrands without co-founder. Power move or final play? Who is Ava Sinclair, and how did she quietly take control of a lifestyle empire? My photo appeared beside the headlines. Clean, poised, commanding. Rachel was nowhere to be found. Caleb was just a footnote. I had become the story. She showed up again, this time calm, collected, and cold. I found her sitting in the waiting area of the office, legs crossed, sunglasses on, waiting like she belonged. I motioned her into a conference room. She walked in like it was war. "You win," she said, voice flat. "You have everything now. The company. The press. Him." I didn't answer. She stepped closer. "But you'll never have peace. Because you are Savannah Reed. And no matter what name you hide behind, you'll always be the girl who couldn't handle being left." I stood and walked to the door. She smirked. "Can't even deny it anymore, can you?" I turned back. "No," I said. "I'm not denying it. I'm owning it." Her eyes narrowed. "I was the girl who was left," I said. "And now, I'm the woman who made sure neither of you will ever rise again." I opened the door. And security escorted her out. 2 weeks later I found a letter on my desk. No return address. Just my name in familiar handwriting. I opened it carefully. It was from Caleb. "Ava, or should I say Savannah? I know now. I see it clearly. The way you move. The way you speak. The way you never forgot the little details only I used to know. You came back to finish the story. And you did. I don't blame you. I blame myself. For what I did. For what I let Rachel do. For the man I became when I lost you. You've won. But I needed you to know. I never stopped loving you. Even when I pretended I had. Goodbye, C." I burned the letter. Because I didn't need love. I needed legacy. 6 months after the rebrand, Heart Collective launched its first independent line, Resurrected. A collection themed on renewal, rebirth, and silent strength. We sold out in under 24 hours. Media called it the comeback of the year. But for me, it was the coronation. I hosted the launch party on the same rooftop where Caleb had once proposed to Ava. He didn't attend. But I knew he saw the headlines. Rachel left the country, some say Europe, others say a rehab retreat in Bali. I didn't care. They were gone. And I had everything they built on my back. Rewritten. Rebranded. Reclaimed. After the success of the Resurrected launch, Heart Collective became the fastest-growing lifestyle brand in the country. Our new narrative, centered on rebuilding from emotional collapse, hit home for a generation of women who had been silenced, sidelined, or shamed. We weren't just selling candles or curated journals. We were selling reclamation. And I was the blueprint. The press loved it. The public devoured it. Even the ones who used to know Savannah Reed started forgetting who she was. But not everyone. The email arrived on a quiet Sunday morning. Subject: "You've been nominated Women of the Year Gala. Dear Ava Sinclair, you have been selected as one of our top nominees for Businesswoman of the Year, recognizing your extraordinary leadership, innovation, and resilience. We would be honored to have you attend the gala on May 16th. It wasn't just a nomination. It was the event. The one Rachel and I used to fantasize about attending back in college. A room filled with billionaires, venture capitalists, and tastemakers. The kind of event where the wrong whisper could end an empire, or the right entrance could birth a legend." I stared at the screen, smiling. The date? Exactly 2 years since my wedding that never was. Perfect. 2 weeks before the gala, it began. A whisper. Rumor. The kind that moves like ink in water, slow, dark, undeniable. Is Ava Sinclair actually Savannah Reed? Was Heart Collective built on stolen identity? Did she return to sabotage the Morgans? At first I ignored it. Let it burn through the low-level gossip columns like wildfire contained to the woods. But then I received the package. A white envelope with no return address. Inside, a printout of my birth certificate. A photo of me in college, arm in arm with Caleb and Rachel. A letter that read, "You can't hide forever." There was no signature. But I didn't need one. Only 2 people in the world hated me enough to want to destroy everything I'd rebuilt. One was across the ocean. The other? Probably watching from the shadows. I called an emergency PR meeting. "Listen," I said calmly, "the story may surface. We don't fight it. We don't deny it. We control it." My team blinked. "You're not denying it?" one asked cautiously. "No," I replied. "I'm owning it." It was time. I wasn't just Ava Sinclair anymore. I was both Ava and Savannah. And that was my power. 3 days before the gala, I gave an exclusive to Her Voice, one of the most respected women's magazines in the country. The headline: "Yes, I was her. Ava Sinclair breaks her silence." The interview was everything: vulnerable, powerful, honest. I told them about heartbreak, about vanishing, about betrayal. I never mentioned Caleb or Rachel by name. But the world read between the lines. Within 24 hours the interview went viral. From wedding day devastation to boardroom domination. She disappeared, then came back and conquered. Savannah Reed didn't just survive. She became Ava Sinclair. The support was overwhelming. Women from around the world flooded my inbox with letters, DMs and video messages. Survivors. Dreamers. Fighters. My truth hadn't weakened me. Crowned me. The night of the gala, I walked into the ballroom wearing a custom midnight black gown. No sparkle. No lace. Just power stitched into silk. The cameras flashed. Heads turned. Whispers followed. But no one looked away. I owned that room. The moment they announced the award, the host's voice cracked with emotion. For resilience that reshaped an industry, for silence turned into strategy. The businesswoman of the year, Ava Sinclair. Applause thundered. I walked to the stage slowly, owning every step, feeling the past fall behind me like dust. When I took the mic, the room fell silent. I looked around at the women who once would have never let me sit beside them. And I said, they took my name. They took my story. They thought they could take my ending. But what they didn't realize is that I would come back and write a better one. The room stood. And I bowed. It was late when I finally made it to the rooftop lounge where VIPs gathered. The air was warm. Champagne sparkled under the stars. And then I felt it. A presence behind me. I turned. Of course. His suit was clean. His face weathered. He clapped once slow. Congratulations. I nodded. Thank you. He stepped closer. You did it. Everything you said you would. I tilted my head. Is that admiration or resentment? He smiled sadly. Both. We stood in silence. Then he whispered, Rachel's pregnant. I blinked. Doesn't change anything, I said. I know, he replied. Then she's naming the baby Savannah. Says it's to honor her past. I laughed. Low and bitter. That's rich, I said. Tell her thank you. And good luck. I walked away. Because the only thing colder than revenge is indifference. Came in the form of an email. No subject line. No signature. Just 3 words. You win. Colme. Attached an address. My heart knew where it led before I even opened the map. The old lake house. The one Caleb and I had once talked about buying. The one we joked would be our getaway when we hate everyone. I hadn't been there in years, but I remembered every dusty beam, every echo. I didn't hesitate. Because closure doesn't wait. It demands. I arrived just before sunset. The lake glimmered gold. The porch creaked under my heels. And there they were, Rachel and Caleb. Standing together on the porch like 2 ghosts. Rachel looked thinner. Softer. Pregnant, visibly now maybe 6 months. Caleb looked older. Worn in a way no spa could fix. Neither of them moved. You came, Rachel said. I nodded. Why? Caleb asked quietly. Because I need this, I said. Not for you. For me. We sat in silence for a long time. Rachel was the first to break. I was your best friend, she whispered. I loved you. And I still did it. Why? I asked. She blinked. Because you had everything. Caleb, your family's love, your grace. People chose you without even realizing it. My voice was steady. So you stole my life to feel chosen? Yes, she said. And I lost myself trying to live in your skin. Caleb cleared his throat. I didn't plan it. I didn't even think I loved her at first. But you were so perfect, Savannah. I felt like I didn't deserve you. Like one day you'd see right through me. So you left before I could, I said. He nodded. Rachel's hands trembled. You were supposed to vanish. I did, I replied. But you built your empire on my bones. And when I returned, all I did was take back what was mine. They had no words. Guess it was true. Rachel looked up. I'm naming her Savannah, she said. Not to provoke you. To remember what guilt should feel like. Every day. I don't need her to carry that weight, I said. It's not about you, she replied. It's about me. Caleb looked at me then, eyes glassy. Do you hate us? I thought about it. No, I said slowly. I don't hate you. Because you gave me the greatest gift. They stared. You set me on fire. And from those ashes, I built something better than any of us ever dreamed. I stood. And that was it. No grand revenge. No destruction. Just clarity. Just the final cut. Heart Collective opened its first flagship store in New York City. We hosted an opening gala where I gave a speech under a banner that read, "Reclaimed. Rebuilt. Relentless." The press swarmed. Awards followed. The Savannah Reed who had once waited at the altar never existed in this world. Ava Sinclair was all that remained. I received a card by courier. No envelope. Just a photo. A baby girl. Wrapped in lavender. A note beside her. Savannah Grace Morgan. Born healthy. Quiet. Beautiful. We hope she grows to be half the woman you became. RNCI smiled. And dropped the photo into my fire. Letting go finally of the girl I had once been. Think.